Rhosgobel rabbit. ASMR. Relax. Things you will need: some molding paste, paint in the colors black, white, red, and green, preferably a darker green. You will need some paint brushes, a spatula. You can use a plastic spoon if you don't have a spatula. Some gray thread, a needle, and some scissors. You'll need a gloss varnish. It's optional, you don't have to have that. You will also need a blank canvas. First, you'll need to take your spatula and your molding paste. Mine is by the brand Liquitex, but you can use whichever one you have available. Just spread the molding paste across the canvas. Very nice thin layer. It has the texture of cream cheese or Nutella, and it should spread fairly easily. If it doesn't spread easily, then it might be dried out, and you may have to purchase a new molding paste. Very good. Now that you've spread the molding paste, you can begin to add texture to it. Just use your spatula to create texture all throughout the canvas. First, spread an even layer, nice thin layer. You don't want too thick of a layer or it will crack. Once you've spread an even layer, then you will go in with your spatula or your plastic spoon, and you'll begin to add texture. And you'll want to do this all over the canvas. Very good. continue to add texture until the entire canvas is covered. There we go, spreading another even layer across the canvas and scraping it down to make sure it's not too thick. And then just going to go back in after this and add some texture. If you see any areas that were not covered properly, you'll need to go back in and add more molding paste. Very good. For the bottom part, I usually have to flip my spatula upside down to be able to reach the very bottom of the canvas. But you do whatever works for you. Just finishing up the last little bit here. I'm just spreading the paste all over the canvas. Making sure that all areas of the canvas are covered in the paste. This just adds a really beautiful texture to the painting. And I'm flipping my spatula upside down so I can get the last bottom corner. Very good, very good. Excellent. Now, for the next step, you'll need 2 wire hangers. You can purchase them at most places, or if you take your clothes to the dry cleaner, you can just keep the ones they give you. You'll need something to grip the hangers on the parts where your hands may not be able to do the job. Most of the bending is done by hand though, so then you will want to bend the hanger into a shape of an abstract rose. Just keep bending and going in circles, uneven circles that is, until you feel it looks the way you want it to. I'm just going in uneven circles and layering some pieces over the others so that it looks like an abstract rose. I'm using my tool to bend in the edges so that they look like they fit in with the rest of the rose. Very good. Almost finished here. is my abstract rose. It's not meant to look perfect, so don't worry too much about the details. Now I'm taking the other wire hanger, and this is going to be the branches of the rose. I'm going to bend it in the middle until it breaks in half, because I want to use 2 pieces instead of 1. There we go. Now, this is just a very rough layout because the branches you really aren't going to be able to shape until you have the rose attached to the canvas. So I'm just getting a rough idea at this point. And I'm using my tool to bend in the edges. That way they don't stick out in an unnatural way. There we go. Very good. Now I'm taking the other piece and doing the exact same thing. Just a rough estimate of where it'll be on the rose. Very good. There you go. Both of them fit, and they're both going to be on the rose. First, you'll need to lay down some sort of paper or newspaper so that you can paint the wire hanger. I'm choosing red as the color of my rose and a darker green as its branches. You can choose whatever colors you like. This piece would also look really beautiful if you painted the entire rose and branches silver or gold. Get creative and do what you want. It is your creation after all. And I'm just taking the paint, making sure to get every bit and every little nook and cranny. Very good. Shouldn't take too long. Very good. Just going to finish up that last little section of the rose. And there we go. You'll need to let that dry for at least a few hours. Next, I'm going to take the dark green and I'm going to paint what will be our branches of the rose. Since these are going to get bent later, some of this green paint will chip off, so try not to do too thick of a coat. And we'll go back in later once the painting is finished and touch up on the edges and such. the green all over the hanger. Very good. Leave them to dry for at least a few hours. Now I'm going to take my white paint and my black paint, and we're going to mix up several shades of gray, starting from lightest to darkest. You'll need about 4 or 5 shades, one of them being pure white, one of them being pure black, and then a few shades of the gray in between. Starting at the edges of the painting with the pure black, I'm going to go all around. I wanted mine very dark, so I used more black than any other color. But you can do whatever you wish. You may choose to use more white or more gray. Make sure you get all into the nooks and crannies from the texture. The texture should be nice and dry now. Usually takes 2 to 3 hours to dry. After you've got all your black laid down, go in with your darkest gray, right at the edge of the black, and lay down that color all around the edge of the black. Very good. And just do a rough circle. It's not meant to be perfect. And you're going to go back in with a second brush that you have set aside. And you're going to blend the black and the dark gray together so that there are no sharp edges. If some of the gray starts pulling up too far into the black, you can dip back into your black paint and correct that. And just lay the gray down and blend the edges. Continue along this process until you're finished with this dark gray color. Very good. Very good. Just make it as thick or as thin as you like. And then going in with your second brush, you'll blend the colors together. Sometimes you may need to pick up a little more of the black paint. Sometimes you may need to pick up a little more of the gray. And you'll just keep blending to soften the edges. Next, you'll go in with your medium gray shade, and you'll do the same thing. You'll lay down the color all around the edge of the darker gray, and then you'll go in with a second brush that you have set aside, and you'll use that to blend and soften the edges. That way there are no harsh lines. Very good. Very good. Just keep laying down the color and then going back in with your second brush and blending. Excellent. Once you get more into the grays and out of the black, you may be able to blend with the brush you used to lay down the color. That'll be up to you. Very good. Make sure it's all blended so that you have no harsh edges. And then you'll need to go in with your lightest gray shade and go all around the edge of the medium gray, just like we did earlier. Lay down the color first and then blend it out to soften the edges. Very good. You're doing great. Very good. Very good. Almost finished with this color here. Then we'll need to blend. You may need to pick up some of the medium gray or the lighter one to blend. Just depends. Very good. Get it all nice and blended. Soft edges is what we're going for here. Excellent. Now I'm going in with my pure white. And I'm doing the very center. You may decide to have your white be bigger than this. That's up to you. Then, just like all the other colors, you'll need to blend out the edges. Very good. Just keep blending and softening. Alright, once that's had a chance to dry for 2 or 3 hours, you'll need to finish up the bits that you were not able to do, such as the top or bottom, around the frame, and any bits that you may have missed in the texture. I don't plan on putting a frame around this picture because I don't want to cover up the texture. So I'm going to paint all the edges of the painting black. There we go. Just going to finish up. And if I see any parts that I missed within the texture of the painting, I'll go ahead and dot on a little bit of the black there as well. Very good. And once you're all done laying down the black and the gray paints, you'll need to let that dry completely for about 2 to 3 hours. Just going over any sections I may have missed. After you've allowed that to dry, you'll need to take your rose as well as your needle and your gray thread, and you'll need to mark where you're going to attach your rose. marked mine with the needle, and then I'm going to attach the rose with the needle and thread. I'm going to take the needle and thread and basically sew the rose onto the painting. You'll only need 3 or 4 stitches, and then you'll tie it off in the back, and that'll attach the rose to the painting. Do this a couple times for each piece of hanger. Alright, now that I've sewn it on, I'm going to tie it off with a few knots in the back. Just 2 or 3 knots will suffice. And then once you're done with that, trim off the excess. And there we go. The rose is attached. I sewed it in 2 different places. Alright, now we're ready to attach the stems of the rose. You'll have to do some bending on these sections. So this may take a little longer than the rose. You'll attach it in the same way. You can see here I've attached it in 3 different parts. Very good. And because we did some bending on the stems, you'll need to go back in and touch up by adding a little bit more green back to the stem, because some of the parts that got bent will chip off the paint. I decided to add a little bend in one of my stems so that it looks like a leaf. If you've had any chipped sections on the rose, you'll need to go back in and add some more red to that as well. Be very careful not to get any of the paint onto your gray or black. Of course, you'll need to let that dry for another 2 or 3 hours. Then you'll be ready to spray on your gloss varnish. This is optional. You may like the way it looks without the gloss. I myself love the gloss because it accentuates the colors and the texture. So, typically you would hold the spray can a little further back, but I was holding it a little close. Once you have a nice good layer on that, you'll need to let that dry for another few hours. And then you have a unique piece of modern art that you made yourself very inexpensively. You can hang it on your wall, or you can give it away as a gift. Thank you for watching.